Everyone in Maplewood knew Lila Monroe as the bright, cheerful girl who always had a smile for everyone. She loved helping her neighbors and spending time with her only true friend, Derek Harper. But behind the walls of her own home, things were different. Her stepmother, Victoria, watched her every move with cold eyes, jealous of the attention and warmth Lila naturally drew from others. Victoria had tried small ways to make Lila's life miserable, but tonight, under the dark clouds of a storm, her hatred had grown too strong to contain. As Lila walked along the riverbank, unaware of the danger, Victoria followed her quietly, heart pounding with cruel intent. With a sudden shove, Lila was thrown into the roaring river. The icy water swallowed her screams, and the world seemed to blur around her. Derek, hidden among the trees, ran toward the water, but the current was too fast, the river too wide. He could only watch in helpless horror as Lila disappeared beneath the waves. The next morning, Maplewood awoke to the news that Lila Monroe was gone. Families whispered, neighbors shook their heads, and the town grieved. But deep in the forest, where the river curved and the trees stood thick, Lila clung to life, cold and trembling, unaware that her story was far from over. Lila woke to the sound of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves, her body aching from the river's violent pull. She was weak, shivering, and afraid, but a kind man named Samuel Green found her among the trees. Samuel was a quiet recluse, living alone in a small cabin deep in the forest. Without asking questions, he carried her inside, wrapped her in warm blankets, and tended to her cuts and bruises. Days turned into weeks as Lila slowly regained her strength. Samuel taught her how to hunt, gather food, and move quietly through the forest. He showed her how to survive on her own, to rely on her instincts, and to trust her mind as much as her hands. Over the years, Lila grew stronger, her fear slowly replaced by determination. She learned to protect herself and to read people, skills she would need for the future. During this time, she chose a new name for herself, Alara Rivers. The name felt like a shield, hiding the girl who had been betrayed and giving birth to someone clever, alert, and unafraid. Each day in the forest, she remembered what had happened, letting the pain fuel her resolve. Lila was gone, but Alara was ready to face the world again, stronger and wiser. Alara walked quietly through the streets of Maplewood, careful not to be recognized. Years had passed, and the town had changed, but some things stayed the same. Victoria Monroe still lived in the big house by the river, hosting parties and charming neighbors, pretending everything was perfect. Alara watched from a distance, noting how Victoria manipulated people with a smile, unaware that the girl she had tried to destroy was still alive. Derek Harper had grown into a strong, successful man, but there was a sadness in his eyes. He often walked alone by the river, lost in memories of Lila. Alara felt a pang in her heart but knew she had to focus. She needed to learn everything about Victoria, her habits, her secrets, the people she trusted. Alara spent days observing quietly, blending into the crowd, listening to conversations, and noticing cracks in Victoria's carefully built image. She discovered which friends were loyal out of fear, which ones could be influenced, and where Victoria had made mistakes. Each detail added to a plan forming in her mind. The town still mourned for Lila Monroe, but Alara knew that soon, Victoria's world would start to crumble, and she would be ready. Alara returned to Maplewood with confidence, now carrying the elegance and charm of a successful art dealer. She attended parties and social gatherings, introducing herself as Alara Rivers, a new face with wealth and influence. People were drawn to her sophistication, and Victoria quickly noticed the newcomer, welcoming her with the polite smile she used for everyone she wanted to control. Alara began her first move carefully. She sent anonymous tips and subtle evidence of Victoria's small scams and manipulations to people in the town, enough to make whispers start spreading. Slowly, Victoria's perfect image began to crack, her friends and neighbors questioning her honesty. She tried to maintain her usual charm, but the doubts were spreading faster than she could stop. Derek, now a respected businessman, started noticing coincidences around Alara. Something in her manner, the way she observed people, reminded him of someone he had lost long ago. He couldn't place it, but a feeling of familiarity tugged at him. Alara watched carefully, her heart steady. Every small victory over Victoria gave her satisfaction. She felt the power shift beginning, and for the first time since that stormy night, she sensed that justice was slowly moving into her hands. Alara began spending time with Victoria's closest friends, speaking to them in private and sharing carefully crafted stories that made them question Victoria's honesty. She asked subtle questions and dropped hints that made her seem concerned, planting tiny doubts in their minds. Slowly, cracks appeared in Victoria's relationships as friends started noticing inconsistencies and feeling uneasy around her. Victoria, who had always controlled everyone with ease, began to feel the first stirrings of fear. She noticed her allies looking at her differently, whispering behind her back, and avoiding her. Her confidence faltered, and paranoia settled in. Every smile felt forced, every conversation became a test of loyalty she could not trust. At the same time, Victoria began receiving anonymous letters. Each one was carefully written, hinting that someone she had tried to destroy long ago was still alive and watching. The words were vague but cutting, forcing her to imagine what could be coming. Night after night, Victoria lay awake, her mind racing with fear and suspicion. She tried to regain control, but every attempt failed. Slowly, she began to unravel, her carefully polished world crumbling under the invisible weight of Alara's quiet, relentless manipulation. Alara and Derek spent more time together under the pretense of friendship, sharing conversations that felt familiar in ways Derek couldn't explain. She dropped small hints about her past, memories only Lila and he shared, phrases only he would recognize. Each clue made his heart race, stirring emotions he thought he had buried long ago. At first, Derek resisted the idea, afraid to believe it could be her. The girl he had mourned for years, lost to the river, now standing before him, seemed impossible. But the more time he spent with Alara, the more the truth became undeniable. When he finally realized who she truly was, disbelief gave way to overwhelming emotion. Tears, laughter, and quiet relief mingled as they held each other, reconnecting the bond that had survived years of absence. Their reunion strengthened Alara's resolve. Derek's support gave her courage, and together they began planning the next steps carefully. They discussed how to reveal Victoria's ultimate betrayal in a way that would expose her fully, while keeping themselves safe. With Derek by her side, Alara felt unstoppable, ready to finish the story that had begun years ago, and to finally bring justice to the woman who had tried to destroy her life. Alara carefully planned a situation that would draw Victoria out, using her greed against her. She created the illusion of a lucrative business opportunity, one that promised wealth and status far beyond what Victoria already had. Every detail was designed to appeal to Victoria's arrogance and ambition, making it impossible for her to resist. Victoria received the invitation and could not contain her excitement. She bragged to friends about the new venture, unaware that every step she took was being watched. Alara made sure Derek and a few trusted witnesses were in position, ready to see Victoria's downfall firsthand. As Victoria signed contracts and made arrangements, she unknowingly revealed her lies, scams, and manipulations. Documents, secret deals, and evidence of her past wrongdoings were all exposed in a single moment, perfectly arranged by Alara. The room was silent as Victoria realized the trap she had walked into, her confident smile fading into panic. Alara watched from a distance, heart steady, as Victoria struggled to regain control. Every deceit Victoria had committed now came to light, witnessed by those she trusted. The trap had worked flawlessly, and the town would soon see her for who she truly was. Victoria's lies and schemes could no longer be hidden. The evidence Alara had gathered was shown to the town, exposing every manipulation, every secret deal, and every cruel act she had committed. Friends and allies who once followed Victoria out of fear quickly turned away, leaving her isolated. Her wealth and reputation, built on deception, began to crumble before her eyes. Alara finally approached Victoria in private, her voice calm but sharp. She reminded her of the stormy night by the river, of the moment Victoria had tried to end her life. Victoria's eyes widened with shock and fear, but she quickly tried to twist the story, attempting to manipulate Alara once more. This time, it was impossible. Alara stood firm, unshaken by Victoria's words. Years of pain, fear, and planning had made her strong and clever. Victoria's desperation only confirmed the justice that had been served. As Victoria slumped, defeated and powerless, Alara felt a weight lift from her chest. The betrayal, the terror, and the long years of suffering had led to this moment. She had confronted her past, faced her tormentor, and finally ensured that justice, slow but certain, had been done. Alara returned to the riverbank, the place that had once felt like the end of her world. She stood quietly, listening to the water rush by, feeling the memory of that night wash over her. For years, she had carried fear, anger, and guilt, blaming herself for surviving, for not being able to change what had happened. Now, she let those feelings go, releasing the weight she had held for so long. Derek stood beside her, his hand gently covering hers. His presence reminded her that she was not alone, that she had someone who loved and believed in her. Together, they watched the river, feeling a sense of calm and new beginnings. Alara forgave herself, understanding that what Victoria had done was never her fault. She had survived, grown stronger, and reclaimed her life. Victoria, meanwhile, faced her punishment alone, trapped by her own greed and cruelty, with nothing left but regret and isolation. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the water, Alara felt peace for the first time in years. The river, once a symbol of fear, had become a place of healing. She turned to Derek, smiling, ready to step forward into the life she had earned. Alara and Derek left Maplewood behind, driving toward a new town where no one knew their past. The air felt lighter, and every mile brought them farther from the pain and betrayal that had once controlled their lives. For the first time in years, Alara felt she could breathe without fear, without the shadow of Victoria looming over her. In their new home, Alara began helping others who had suffered abuse or betrayal. She shared her story carefully, offering guidance and support to those who felt powerless. Her experiences had taught her resilience and strength, and she used that knowledge to empower people, helping them see that they could survive and even thrive after hardship. Derek stayed by her side, offering love, encouragement, and a quiet sense of stability. Together, they built a life filled with trust, respect, and hope. One evening, Alara walked to a calm river near their new home. She watched the water flow gently, remembering the river that had once taken so much from her. This time, she smiled freely, feeling the peace and freedom she had fought for. The past was behind her, and the future was hers to shape. She was finally whole.